The training center has a tower designed exclusively for the tributes and their teams. They will be our home until the actual games begin. Each district has an entire floor. You can simply step onto the elevator and press a button of your district. Easy enough to remember. I've ridden the elevator a couple times in the Justice Building back in District 12. Once to receive the medal for my father's death, and then yesterday to say my final goodbyes to my friends and family. But that's a dark and creaky thing that moves like a snail and smells like sour milk. The walls of this elevator are made of crystal, so you can watch people underground shrink to ants as you shoot up in the air. It's exhilarating, and I'm tempted to ask every trinket if we can ride again, but somehow that seems childish. Apparently, every trinket students do not conclude at the station. She and Hamish will be overseeing us right into the arena. In a way, that's a plus, because at least she can be counting us to corral us around the places on time where we haven't seen Hamish until he agreed to help us on the train. Probably passed out somewhere. Every trinket on the other hand seems to be flying high. We're the first team she's ever chaperoned that made a splash at the opening ceremonies. She's complimentary about not just our costumes, but how we conducted ourselves. And to hear her tell it, every trinket knows anyone who's in the capital and been talking us up all day, trying to win us sponsors. I've been very mysterious though. She says her eyes squint half shut because of course Hamish hasn't bothered to tell you your strategies, but I've done my best with what I could work with. Now how Candace sacrificed herself for her sister, how you both successfully struggled to overcome the barbarism in your district. Barbarism? That's ironic coming from a woman. Help us to prepare for slaughter. And what's she basing our success on? Our table manners? Everyone has their reservations naturally. You're being a coal from the coal district. Well, but I said, they're very clever of me. I said, but when you put through pressure on coal, it turns into pearls. Every beams us so brilliantly, we have no choice but to respond enthusiastically to her cleverness, even though it's wrong. Coal does not turn into pearls. They grow in shellfish. Probably she meant coal turn into diamonds, but that's untrue too. I've heard they have some machine at District 12 that can turn graphite into diamonds, but we don't mine graphite in District 12. That's a part of District 13's shop until they were destroyed. I wonder if people she had plucked on to all day either know or care. Unfortunately, I can't seal the sponsor's deal for you. Only Hamish can do that, says Effie grimly. But don't worry, I'll get him on the table at gunpoint if necessary. Although lacking in many departments, every trinket has a certain determination I have to admire. My critters are larger than our entire house back home. They are plush like a train car, but also have so many automatic gadgets that I'm sure I wouldn't have time to press all the buttons. The shower alone has a panel with more than 100 options you can choose, regulating water temperature, pressure, soaps, shampoos, scents, oils, and massaging sponges. When you step out on the mat, heaters come on that blow dry your body. Instead of struggling with the knots in my wet hair, I merely place my hand on the box that sends a current through my scalp, untangling, parting, and drying my hair almost instantly. It flows down around my shoulders in a glossy curtain. I programmed the closet for an outfit to my taste. The windows zoom in and out of parts of the city at my command. You only need to whisper a type of food from a gigantic menu on the mouthpiece and then it appears, hot and steamy, before you even less than a minute. I walk around the room, eating goose liver and puffy bread until there's a knock on the door. Effie's calling to dinner. Good, I'm starving. Pecha and Zena Portilla are standing on the balcony that overlooks the Capitol when we enter the dining room. I am glad to see the stylist, particularly after I heard that Hamish will be joining us. The meal presided over by just Effie and Hamish is bound to be disaster. Besides, dinner isn't really about food. It's about planning our strategies, and Zena and Portilla have already proven how valuable they were. The silent young man dressed in a white tunic offers us all steamed glasses of wine. I think about turning it down, but I never had wine except the homemade stuff my mother uses for coughs. And And when will I get the chance to try it again? I take a sip of the tart, dry liquid and secretly think it could be more poop by a few spoonfuls of honey. Hamish shows up and just as dinner is about to be served. It looks as he has been to old stylist because he's clean and groomed and just about as sober as I have seen him. He doesn't refuse to offer of wine, but when he starts in on a soup, I realize the first time I ever seen him eat. Maybe he will put himself together long enough to help us. Zena and Portia seems to have civilizing effect on Hamish and Effie. At least they are addressing each other decently, and they both have nothing but praise for a stylist's opening act. While they make small talk, I concentrate on meal. Mushroom soup, bitter greens with tomatoes with a side of peas, rare toast beef sliced into thin as paper, noodles in a green sauce, cheese that melts your tongue served with sweet blue grapes. The servers, all young people dressed in white tunics like the one who gave us wine, moved wordlessly to form from the table, keeping the platters and glasses full. About halfway through my glass of wine, my head starts feeling foggy, so I change to water instead. I don't like the feeling and hope it wears off soon. How Hamish can stand walking around like this full time is a mystery. I try to focus on the talk, which has turned to our interview costumes. When a girl sets a gorgeous looking cake on the table and deftly lights it, it blazes up and then the flames flicker around the edges a while until it goes out. I have a moment of doubt. What makes it burn? Is it alcohol? I said, looking at the girl. That's the last thing I want. Oh, I know you. I can't place a name or a time on the girl's face, but I'm certain of it. The dark red hair, the striking features, the porcelain white skin. But even as I utter their words, I feel my insides contradicting with anxiety and guilt at the sight of her. And while I can't pull it up, I know some bad memory has associated with her. The expression of terror that crosses her face only adds my confusion and unease. She shakes her head in a denial way and hurries away from the table. When I look back, the four adults are watching me like hawks. Don't be ridiculous, Katniss. How could you possibly know a vox? Snaps a very thought. What's a vox? Someone who's committed a crime. But they cut her tongue so she can't speak. She's probably a traitor of some sort. Not likely you know her. And even if you did, you're not to speak to one of them unless you're given an order, says Effie. Of course, you don't really know her. But I do know her. But I know that Hamish has mentioned the word traitor. I remember from where. The disapproval is so high I could almost admit it. No, I guess not. It's just, I stammer. And the wild wine is not helping. Petra snaps his finger. Della Catwhite, that is who it is. I kept thinking she looked familiar as well. Then I realized she's a dead ringer for Deli. Della Catwhite is a pasty-faced, lumpy girl with yellowish hair who looks about as much as our server as a beetle does to a butterfly. She's maybe one of the friendliest people on earth, and she smiles constantly at everyone in school, even me. I had never seen a girl with a red hair smile, but I jumped at Petra's suggestion gratefully. Of course, that's who I'm thinking of. It must be the hair. Something about the eyes, too, Petra. The energy at a table relaxes. Oh well, if that's just it is. And yes, the cake has spirits, but all the alcohol has burned off. I order it especially in honor of our fiery debuts. We eat the cake and move on to the sitting table to watch the replay of the opening ceremonies that have been broadcast. A few of the other couples made a nice impression, but none of them can hold a candle to us. Even our own birthday party lets out an ah as they show us coming out the remake center. Whose idea was the hand-holding, says Hamish. Zena, says Portia. Just a perfect touch of rebellion, says Hamish. Very nice. Rebellion? I have to think about this moment. But when I remember about the other couple standing stiffly apart, never touching or acknowledging a treasure, as if their fellow tribute did not exist, and the games had already begun, I know what Hamish means. Presenting ourselves not as adversity, but as friends has distinguished us as much as fiery costumes. Tomorrow morning is just a training session. Meet me for breakfast, and I'll tell you exactly what I want you to play it, says Hamish to Petra and me. Now go get some sleep while the grown-ups talk. Petra and I walk back together to corridor to our rooms. When we get our door open, he leans against the frame, not blocking my entrance exactly, but insisting I pay attention to him. So, Deli called with, imagine finding her look-alike here. He says it for an explanation, but I'm tempted to give him one. We both know he's covered for me, so I'm in his debt again. So if I tell him the truth about the girl, somehow that might even things up. So how would it hurt? How can it hurt really? If he repeated the story, it couldn't do me much harm. It's just something I witnessed. He lied as much as I did about Deli Carthworth. I realize I do want to talk to someone about the girl, someone who might be able to figure out her story. Gail would be my first choice, but that's unlikely I'd ever see Gail again. I tried of thinking Petra, but Petra could give him any possible advantage over me. But I don't see how. Maybe sharing a confidence will actually make him believe I see him as a friend. Besides, the idea of the girl in her maimed tongue frightens me. She has reminded me of why I'm here, not to model fashionably clothes and delicacies, but to die a bloody death while the crowd urge my killer. To tell or not to tell. My brain feels slow for a while. I stare down at the empty corridor as the decision lies there. Petra picks up my hesitation. Has it been on this route yet? I shake my head. Sina showed me. You can practically see the whole city. The wind's a bit loud there. I translate into no one will overhear us talking in my head. So I do still the sense that we might be under surveillance here. Can we go up? Sure, come on, says Petra. I follow him flight to the stairs that led to the roof. There's a small dome-shaped room with a door on the outside. As we step into the cool windy air, I catch a breath at the view. The Capitol twinkles like a vast sky in fireflies. Electricity as District 12 come and goes. Usually we only have a few hours a day. Often the evenings are spent in candlelight. The only times we can count on it is when we're airing the games or something important government messages on television that's mandatory to watch. But here there will be no shortage ever. Petra and I walk to the railing at the edge of the roof. I look straight down at the side of the building to the streets, which is buzzing with people. You hear their calls, an occasional shout, and a strange metal tinkling. It's District 12, and we've all thinking about that right now. I asked Sina why we let us up here. Weren't they worried that some tributes might decide to jump right over the side? Says Petra. What'd he say? You can't, says Petra. He holds out his hand to seemingly empty space. There's a stopjack. Stab as he jerks back. Some kind of electricity field throws it back to the roof. Always worried about our safety, I say, even though Sina has shown Petra the roof. I wonder if we're supposed to be up there right now, so late and alone. I never seen tributes in the training center roof before, but there's doubt doesn't mean we're not being taped. Do you think they're watching us now? Maybe. Come see the garden. On the other side of the dome, we built the garden with flower beds and potted trees. From the branches hang hundreds of white chimes, which account for the tinkling I heard. Here in the garden, which is a windy night, is enough to drown out two people who are trying not to be hurt. Petra looks at me unexpectedly. I pretend to examine the blossom. We were hunting in the woods one day, hidden, waiting for a game. I whispered, you and your father? No, my friend Gail. Suddenly, all the birds stopped singing at once, except one, as if we were giving a warning call. And then we saw her. I'm sure it was the same girl. A boy was with her. Their clothes were tattered. They had dark circles around their eyes from no sleep. They were running as if their lives depended on it. For a moment I'm silent, as I remembered how the sight of the strange pair, clearly not from District 12, fleeing through the woods, abominized us. Later we wondered if we could help them escape. Perhaps we might have concealed them if we moved quickly. Gail and I were taken by surprise, yes, but we were both hunters. We know how animals look at bay. We knew the pair was in trouble as soon as we saw them, but we only watched. The hovercraft appeared out of nowhere. I continue. No. One moment the sky was empty, and then the next it was there. It didn't make a sound, but they saw it. A net dropped down on the girl and carried her up fast, so fast like an elevator. They shot something sort of a spear through the boy. It attached the cable, then hauled him up as well. But I'm certain he was dead. We heard the girl scream once. The boy's name, I think. Then it was gone. The hovercraft vanished into thin air, and the birds began to sing again, as if nothing had happened. Did they see you? I don't know. We were under a solid rock. I replied, but I do know. There was a moment before the bird call, before the hovercraft, when the girl had seen us. She locked eyes with me and called out for help, but neither Gail and I had responded. You're shivering, says Petra. The wind in the story had blown all the warmth from my body. The girl's scream had been her last. Petra takes off his jacket and wraps it around my shoulders. I start to take a step back, but then I let him, deciding for a moment to accept both his jacket and his kindness. A friend would do that, right? Then they were from here, he says, asking, securing a button around my neck. I nod. They had the capital look about them, the boy and the girl. Where do you suppose they were going? I don't know that. I say District 12 is pretty much the end of the line. Beyond us, there's only wilderness. If you don't count on the ruins of District 13 that still smolder from the toxic bombs. They show it on television occasionally just to remind us. Or why they would leave here. Hamish has called the Axis traitors. Against what? They could only be the capital, but they had everything here, no cause to rebel. I'd leave here, Peter blurts out. Then he looks around nervously. It's loud enough to be heard above the chimes. He laughs. I go home now if they let me, but you have to admit, the food's prime. He's covered again. If all you heard would just sound like the words of a scared tribute, not someone contemplating the unquestionable goodness of the capital. It's getting chilly. We better go in, he says. Inside the dome is warm and bright. His tone is conversational. Your friend Gail, he's the one who took your sister away from the reaping? Yes. Do you know him? I asked. Not really. I hear the girls talk about him a lot. I thought it was a cousin or something. You favor each other. No, we're not related, I say. Peter nods, unreadable. Does he come and say goodbye to you? Yes, I said, observing her carefully. So did your father. He brought me cookies. Fraser raises his eyebrows at this news, but after watching him lie so smoothly, I didn't give him this much weight. Really? Well, he likes you and your sister. I think he wishes he had daughters at a house full of boys. The idea that I might be discussed around the dinner table at the baker fire just as passing in Peter's house gives me a start. It must have been where my mother was out of the room. He knew your mother when they were kids, he said. Another surprise, but probably two. Oh yes, she grew up in town, I said. It's almost impolite to say she never mentioned the baker, except to compliment to Brett. We're at my door. I give back his jacket. See you in the morning then. See you, he says, then walks up into the hall. When I close the door, a redhead is collecting my unitard and bruised from where I left them on the floor before my shower. I want to apologize for probably getting her in trouble, but I remember I'm not supposed to speak to her unless I'm giving an order. Oh, sorry, I say. I was supposed to get those back to Sienna. I'm sorry, can you take them to him? She avoids my eyes, gives a small nod, and heads out the door. I set out to tell her I'm sorry about dinner. But I know my apology runs much deeper. Then I'm ashamed that I never helped her in the woods, that I let the capital kill the boy and multiplicate her without lifting a finger, just like I watched the games. I kicked off my shoes and climbed under the covers into my clothes. The shivering hasn't stopped. Perhaps the girl doesn't even remember me, but I know she does. You don't forget the face of a person who has last hope. I pull the covers up over my head as this will protect me from the redhead girl who can't speak. But I can feel her eyes staring at me, piercing me, through the walls and doors and bedding. I wonder if she'll enjoy watching me die.